Hello folks, I've had quite a few questions as well as requests by viewers, some of my followers as well, on how I set up my DJI O3 on my planes. Now, I apologize. I think it took me a while to actually do this up because I was busy with work and such. So I hope that, with this video, it could be a long one. It could help fellow pilots to actually put their DJI O3 into their planes and jets. Well, while we're at it, please do subscribe, like and comment on my channel. It helps a bit to grow the channel. I only have about, 240 subscribers for now. Any help would be very grateful for that. So before we start on how I put the DJI O3, I've listed down all my stuff, the electronics, in my other videos. One subscriber, I think, he already got all the stuff. He just wanted to know how I put it together, and I hope this video would help him and other pilots as well. So before we even go into the electronics, there are certain things that, for me, I would actually consider before putting an O3 into an RC plane. First of all, it's basically space. You have to have enough space for the electronics, where to put the camera, and most importantly, I think, is the CG, because you're adding some more weight. I don't know, probably about 50 to 70 grams. Up usually in front of the plane, in the canopies, in the fuselage. So you have to consider whether the plane can actually CG well enough. It would be slightly nose heavy. I think nose heavy would be fine in some cases or most cases. I did have a challenge with the FMS 80mm F18. It's still in the works. I've got the plane for the past 2 years, still figuring it out. But I think for this, video tutorial on how to put the DJI O3, I'm using the current plane that I fly most often, which is this FMS 1300mm PA-18 Super Cub. It has enough space, well, just enough space. It's a bit packed in the fuselage. And yeah, I mean, it fits well. I managed to fit a 5-volt fan into the plane to cool the O3. The O3 gets really hot, so you need some sort of a cooling for the O3 air unit. And then I'll show you, some links to the videos that I've already flew the Super Cub with. Now, there are several ways to get an O3 up and running in an RC jet or plane. Basically what you want is, or basically what I wanted for the O3 system is, first of all, I want to arm the system. Secondly, I want to have a customizable OSD, for battery. I mean, I also put the horizontal bar to see my orientation, GPS, speed, altitude as well. So when flying FPV, I think for me that will be very important. There are several ways to have an O3 running. First of all, of course, without anything else, just plug it into the battery. I can take out the 6S if not mistaken. But the challenge for that, if you only have an O3 air unit and directly to the battery, is one, you can't arm it. It's not like the Vista where you can just disable the overheating thing and you can just full power, go on full power. For O3, you need an arming signal to get it into full power to enable you to record as well. So I've done one flight on the Super Cub without any arming signal. It can still show video in your goggles, but first of all, you can't record. Secondly, you get about 7 Mbps, which means your range is so low. I think 100, 200 meters max, and the image will be breaking up already. So definitely you need an arming signal. If you talk about DJI Vistas, ChaddRainsFPV Vistas, there is a way where you can actually have it turned on. You can turn off the overheating option where it can just go full power, or you can have a Lefei Sparrow gyro, which has an the DJI sort of like a plug that you can plug into it. Now that is actually good because it's also a gyro. It can have digital video, which you can record as well. It gives an arming signal. But I mean, it gives OSD, it's just that you can't customize the OSD. So whatever it gives you, you know, that's what it is. And I flew that with my Volantex RC 750mm P-51 Mustang. I mean, it flew well. The problem is with digital FPV systems is basically because, you know, it's heavy. It's a small plane, 750mm. So the weight was a bit too much. From 270 grams stock, if you fly line of sight, it goes up to 500-ish grams, so more than double the weight. So it flies like shit. The stall speed is really crazy high, but it flew. Lefei had come up with a newer version which can actually have the O3 plugged in. Now I have the O3, the Lefei Sparrow, the new one. The challenge with that is apparently it gives OSD, which is good, but not sure when the arming signal is given, because when I tested it, it does not turn on full power mode. Even when I turn on the motor, and you know, it's just not in full power. So I asked Lefei via WeChat, what's going on? How do I turn it on? The response that I got was that once you take off, it will automatically turn on and you'll be able to record. Now, I did not try that because I did not want to take the risk, but possibly it works. The first option was having a Lefei gyro, which I used in my Volantex 750mm P-51D Mustang. This is the Volantex Mustang. Yeah, I mean, it flew well. It's good LOS, you know, plane or trainer plane. I've done a lot of customization because of CG, because of weight. As you can see, there's the ChaddRainsFPV Vista, there's the DJI camera on top. I'll put a link down below to my flight videos. Because of the weight of the camera and the air unit, the problem was the motor wasn't giving out enough thrust to actually fly it out, because it's more than double the weight. So I had to change to a bigger motor, not flying 2S but flying 3S, which makes, you know, a heavier battery, much more heavier plane. So I can't fit a 3S, I think 850 milliamps into the front place where you normally put the battery in. So I had to cut out the rear portion to sort of like, you know, put a battery here, 3D printed a hinge, and basically what I have is, you know, the battery inside at the back, giving, you know, trying to get the good CG there. So the Lefei sits inside. This is how it looks like. Let me just take it off. So this is how it looks like. This is the version 1, which connects the DJI, the ChaddRainsFPV Vista can connect directly to the gyro, so it gives out OSD, it arms the Vista, you can record it, it gives full range. The only thing that I like about it is I can't customize the OSD. So yeah, I mean, it works for small planes. you don't have to have another gyro and whatnot. So this Volantex Mustang, I will be reconverting it back to, its stock configuration, although it has seen quite a lot of crashes and had, good fun with it. I'll convert it in LOS and then fly LOS again. The Lefei comes with the second version, which can connect to DJI O3. Now this is the box, and inside you have, rather than a black box, it's in, I think, aluminum, probably silver box. So this is nice. Now it works the same as the version 1, it's just that it has a connector for DJI O3, which is good. But like I said, the challenge is it doesn't arm when you arm your plane. Apparently, as what the customer service told me, once you take off, it will arm and give you full power. So I haven't tried it. I mean, those who have tried it or will be trying it, please let me know down below in the comments whether this works. I actually have 3 of these. I'm not sure what to do with it. The reason why I bought the V2 for the O3 is because I wanted to put in my XFly twin 40mm EDFs, which now it doesn't run this. It runs the Hobby Eagle A3 Super P gyro, and then with my basic setup of ELRS, which is the Radiomaster ER8, and then an AIO. Same Taker G4 35 amp. So yeah, that's one way. You can have directly to the battery, or you can have this Lefei gyro, and then you can have other things, for example Arduino. Now this is the website. You can wire yourself up. You can even have battery OSD if you want, but it just gives you an arming signal and probably voltage OSD. That's about it. It's not difficult to do. I had this particular board of Arduino. I shorted it out because probably I mixed the 5-volt pads or whatever, can't recall. So that's another way to actually have that. The downsides of this is, again, you do not have customizable OSD. So, I mean, if it works for you, that's fine. It's lightweight enough. It doesn't put too much weight on the plane, and probably doesn't mess with your CG. So this is a website on GitHub on the Arduino DJI O3 arming option that you could have. It's simple enough to actually do up. You need to solder some stuff. You need to have the shell, Seeeduino. It comes with instructions. It comes with a wiring layout as well. So it comes directly from the ESC here. So it's connected to basically your PWM receiver, the throttle channel. It connects to the battery directly, and then it goes to the Seeeduino, and it goes to your DJI O3 air unit. So it gives out possibly the voltage of your flight battery, but you need to have some capacitors and connected to both the leads as well as the Seeeduino. Now I've done this once. I shorted out the Seeeduino, so I gave up on it. I will be probably buying one just to test it out, but at the same time, like I said, I'm more comfortable with what I have right now with the Betaflight AIO. So this is one option. The other way is this ChaddRainsFPV O3 arming board. I don't have it. It's made, I think, in the US. You can have a look at the stores in the US. They may have stock. This, again, I think it's a custom board by ChaddRainsFPV. I think it's just giving the arming signal, so you don't have a customizable OSD. Yeah, I mean, probably it works. So that's, you know, the other way of having DJI O3. This ChaddRainsFPV O3 Armer. It's a custom board by ChaddRainsFPV. You can buy it from RDQ, GetFPV, whatever website online, I think. You're selling FPV stuff. It's a bit expensive for me to get this, especially when it comes from the US, so the shipping will be a bit crazy. So, you know, I did not use this. This is not the option. Now, the best way, I think, there are lots of pilots using this, which is basically Inav. You can have it, many pilots use it for wings, which has auto-tune, return to home, loiter, auto takeoff and whatnot, which is, you know, awesome. Which I think some of them, if not all, can actually be applied to RC planes and jets as well. I know a local pilot who flew his F-22 with a SpeeDB F405 wing with Inav, with auto-tune and whatnot. So it was a big bird. It's a 90mm F-22 by Freewing. It flew well. It has, you know, the video coming out from the CADX Vista. I do have a SpeeDB F405 wing, which I put in the F-18. There are several things that actually put me off using it. It's now in one of my drawers. I'm not using it probably in the near future. Maybe once I have enough time to actually do it up with the wing, then probably I'll have the Inav on planes. Now, first of all, you need to know how to use Inav. Now, I'm very well attuned to Betaflight, so it wasn't really a learning curve for Inav. That's just a little bunch of things that is a bit of extra from Betaflight. I would say there is still a learning curve. And then there are lots of options that you can actually play for, you know, RC planes and jets. My challenge was because, one, there's slight learning curve, which is I was too lazy to actually learn. Secondly, it was my FMS FA18, which gave me a challenge of getting the CG right. The board is kind of big, so, you know, I mean, placement, it's either in the canopy or in the fuselage. The fuselage is damn tiny for the F-18. Yeah, getting CG right is a bit of a pain in the FMS FA18. So I decided not to go with that. It's sitting on my desk somewhere. What I'm using, well, previously, is basically the SpeeDB F405 wing, which is kind of a big board. It has 11 channels, well, basically 9 because you have 2 for throttle. You can have the smaller one, the mini wing, which has, I don't know, 8 channels more or less, or 9 channels, I think. So, I mean, it does work. It has all the plugs for DJI, O3, Vista. It has GPS, you know, you can auto-tune, return to home, loiter, whatever. So this is a good option, actually. It's just that, you know, you need to learn a bit of how to use Inav. So this is one of it. I stuck to what I know best, which is basically using a Betaflight AIO. Now, pros and cons for Betaflight AIO. The cons: I am not controlling any surfaces with the AIO, with the Betaflight AIO. All control surfaces still goes through the PWM controller and the gyro, should the plane have gyro. So the Betaflight AIO is purely, one, to give arming signal to the O3. Secondly, it's meant to have customizable OSD. That's about it. It doesn't control any flight control surfaces and whatnot, just for arming signal and then for OSD. That's it. Now, I'm using ELRS in all my planes. Previously, I used FlySky for a while, for a short while. Then I moved to Crossfire. Now I'm ELRS. So the good thing about having a Betaflight AIO and an ELRS is you have your ELRS PWM receivers, which can output RX and TX. So it can still go to the Betaflight AIO to give the arming signal once you switch on your transmitter, and then it gives full power to the DJI O3. All ELRS PWM receivers can output RX and TX. It's either you have to use the ELRS configurator, or you have to, I mean, there are certain receivers like the Radiomaster ER8, which has a dedicated port to give out the RX and TX, which is, you know, awesome. So you don't have to sacrifice any channels to just output RX and TX. On this Super Cub, I'm using the BetaFPV 14-channel SuperP ELRS PWM receiver. It has 14 channels, yes, but because it doesn't have a dedicated port to give out RX and TX, now what I had to do was to remap channel 13 and channel 14 to RX and TX to give out the signal to the AIO, which means I'm down by 2 channels. So instead of 14 channels, I have 12 channels, which is more than enough for the Super Cub. So this is the BetaFPV 14-channel ELRS PWM receiver, SuperP it's called. This is what I'm using in my PA-18 Super Cub. I'm using in my 80mm Rafale by FMS. I'll be using the same one in the FMS 1400 F4U Corsair, also the FMS 80mm FA-18, and still in the box, the Freewing twin 64mm F14. So it's, you know, it's not that expensive. It's basically comes with cables and whatnot. And then you would see this. So it has 14 channels, 10 channels at the bottom. You have 2 channels at the top here. And then another, you have, I think for GPS, whatever, I mean, doesn't really need, I don't really use it. So this is a good enough ELRS receiver for my planes. So you need to remap the PWM receiver to the RX and TX to give output RX and TX, and then connect to your AIO. So once you connect to your ELRS receiver, it will give you the configurator in your browser. So there are several things that you need to actually check. Besides all the passphrase and whatnot, how to set up ELRS, please look up on YouTube on how to do that. So first of all, you would need to set the output 13 and 14 to give out 0 RX and 0 TX. So this too, you need to put the connectors into 13 and 14 channels on the BetaFPV PWM receiver, and then this RX and TX single wire goes to the AIO. So RX to TX on the AIO, TX from the PWM receiver to the RX on the AIO. So that's the first step to get your PWM receiver ELRS talking to your AIO. Secondly, failsafe is set on the ELRS configurator, which for me is the throttle channel. Now the throttle channel is channel 3. So my failsafe is set to actually 0 throttle. So basically, once you lose connection, RX loss, your motors won't, turn on and just spin. So I set it at 988, which is basically throttle 0. So once RX loss, you have 0 throttle, it will just, stop. Or if you're flying, it will just glide or fall out of the sky. Reason why I did that is because if, let's say, it's on the ground and people are nearby, or you're nearby the propellers, and for some reason RX loss happens, the motors won't turn on. It happened a few weeks ago. I had issues with my transmitter ELRS module. It got RX loss because of overheating. So it's, I had RX loss, the motor turned. Luckily, nobody was around the propellers, my fingers or whatever. If not, probably I would have less fingers right now. So that's one thing. That's ELRS. For the ER8, now that is kind of clever by Radiomaster. It has a dedicated RX and TX output. So I still have the 8 channels, full 8 channels on the receiver. And then I can still connect to the Betaflight AIO. So that setup for the Radiomaster ER8, I've put it into my XFly twin 40mm EDF Su-57. So it works well. I don't have to remap anything. It's just that. So what you can see here is the setup is a PWM ELRS receiver connected to a gyro. I'm using Hobby Eagle A3 Super P, and then I have the receiver also connected to the AIO to give the arming signal to the O3 via the AIO. So I have printed several 3D parts which I've put into Makerworld.com, so you can have the files for free. First of the group of files that I have is this canopy. I need to cut out the foam to place the PLA printed camera holder. Now it's not perfect. If let's say the camera is a bit tilted downwards, you can sort of actually see the frame. Happily remix it if you want. Just glue it on, screw the camera on, and then glue the whole PLA mount onto the already cut out space that you have on the canopy. And then you have, well, before I open that, you have the GPS. I'm using GEPRC M10 Nano. Now, I'm not sponsored by GEPRC, but most of the stuff I have is GEPRC. The reason why I have the GPS from GEPRC is I find it, I have a very good, satellite receiving, satellite lock with the M10 and even the old M8 by GEPRC. Using a Nano one, slightly smaller, this mount for the GPS is made printed with TPU. It's also in the Makerworld, and then I have sort of made a hole for the DJI antenna, which you can see there. Just a hole there, poke the antenna in, and then it connects to the DJI Air unit. So that is the setup from the outside. Now you can't pull the canopy out totally because the wires to the camera goes to the air unit. Now I have a 5-volt fan because I have the BetaFPV 14-channel Super P PWM receiver. I have extra channels. I can just plug in a 5-volt fan into one of the spare PWMs, and it's held by this PLA printed mount, which basically it's actually free moving. It does go there and sort of stuck in between the fuselage walls. Reason why I made it freely like this is because when I want to take out the battery, I can just move this aside, or if I want to do any maintenance to whatever's inside there, I can just pull it out. So it's just connected to the PWM receiver, 5 volt and ground. Get any 5 volt fan that you have, the biggest you can fit into the fuselage. I mean, you can't see what's going on here, but there's a mount where I would mount my O3 and my air unit on top. And it's, you know, custom designed by me. It's also in Makerworld. You can download it if you want and use in your Super Cub. Now the AIO is at the top, and then you have the air unit at the bottom. Now it's placed this way so that I can plug in the USB should I want to. I don't have to take the air unit out. Even the SD card slot is there. It's easy for me to take it out to download all the images and whatnot. The power plug is still an XT60 powered by 4S. I'm using mainly CNHL and Alien Model 2200 mAh batteries, 4S packs. So the plug comes out from the ESC. So you basically power the ESC and everything is powered on, besides the motor as well. But because you have an AIO, you need to power the AIO via that. You can use another battery, but it wouldn't give you the flight voltage from your flight battery. So the ESC goes to a Y cable where it goes up into another XT60 where it also comes into the AIO. So basically, when I put the battery on, I power the ESC. I also power the AIO together. So you have actual flight voltage from your flight battery. So when you have powered that up, you'll power your AIO, you'll power your ESC, or receivers, gyro, whatever. I'm using a Reflex V3 because this is actually the second frame for my PA-18 Super Cub. The first frame, it didn't crash. I crashed onto the plane because I was cleaning and I fell onto the plane. It broke. The old frame had a V2 Reflex gyro. This one has a V3. I don't know what's the difference. To me, the flight characteristics are the same. So once that is done, you have your XT60 powering your ESC and then your AIO. You have to connect the RX and TX from your PWM receiver to the AIO, and then you solder on your GPS to the AIO. You solder on your capacitor if you can. Yeah, I think that's about it. The flight controller that I'm using is GEPRC Taker G4 35 amp. You don't have to have a high amp rating on your ESC for the AIO. Why? Is because it doesn't power any motor, so it doesn't take too much amps in the AIO as well. It's just to power your DJI O3, that's it. So let's look at the Taker G4 35 AIO. This is the one that I'm using. It's not the cheapest AIO that you can get, but I think it has all the stuff that I want in an AIO for the planes. Basically a connection for GPS, because I would want to know altitude, speed. I mean, that's about it really. You may or may not have an AIO without with or without the GPS pads. That's up to you. It should be able to take the amount of voltage that you want to use with the jet or plane. Basically, this works well with 4S. It can also work with 6S. And then it has a dedicated DJI connector, which is this one. So the manual actually gives you enough information for you to wire it up. Doesn't really matter what Betaflight firmware version you're using, ESC, either BLHES, BlueJay, doesn't really matter. It has enough pads. So the only pads that I'm using is for, well, not the pads, the connectors. One of it is DJI. So this is basically it. You need to go into Betaflight to set this up, put it on, and then your receiver. So this receiver, RX and TX, without the 5V and ground, goes to your BetaFPV 14 channel SuperP ELRS PWM receiver. Now that's what I'm using. So it must be able to actually connect via wires that you need to solder on. So this would actually go RX and TX. You need to configure the ports in Betaflight as well to enable, control from your transmitter. I'm not going to show how to do Betaflight. I think Betaflight tutorials are in abundance in YouTube. Check out Joshua Bardwell. Well, there's a lot of people actually. And then GPS. Now GPS for this one, I'm using M10 Nano from GEPRC. It doesn't have the compass or magnetometer, which I don't really need. So I just forego the SD-SCL pads. I'll just connect the RX and TX. Of course, you need to 5V and ground as well, because you need to power up your GPS. This is the setup in Betaflight. That's about it. I mean, basically you have an I/O. You can add LED if you want. So another thing that is very important to get your O3 up and running in your RC planes and jets is, if you have Betaflight AIO, you need to set this in the CLI. If you don't, what would happen is, once your plane takes off, and because the AIO does not control any of your control surfaces, you're not powering any motors or whatever via the AIO, it will think that, your aircraft is actually running away or flying away. So it would have this runaway takeoff prevention thing within the Betaflight, and it will just power down your O3. So you need to set this in the CLI, connect Betaflight on your laptop to your AIO, go to CLI, and if you want to see what's it set in the AIO itself, you just type get runaway takeoff prevention. So here it says it's on, so you need to turn that off. Now you wouldn't do this if you're having setting Betaflight in your quads, but in planes this is very important, so that you would have continuous power and not having your AIO thinking that your aircraft is doing weird things and flying away. So how to turn it off? You just type set runaway takeoff prevention off. Now this is set off, but it's not saved yet. You need to save. If you don't save, it wouldn't take effect. Save. Okay, so it reboots Betaflight, and then have a look at the CLI. Get runaway takeoff prevention. It's already off. Okay, so you have to put this in your Betaflight CLI. Why I went with the GEPRC G4 AIO. One is I don't want to stack. I want it as light as possible. I want it to have a proper dedicated DJI connector, which it has. There are many AIOs that can actually connect directly to DJI. But at the same time, it's because it's one of the cheapest AIO that I can get locally. You can have, the one that I've been using for the past 2 years in my quad, the iFlight Blitz F7, I think, yeah, F7 55 amp. It's an awesome AIO, but it's a bit of overkill. It's basically double the price of the G4. So there's Taker G4 35 amp, that's 45 amp. Both work. I'm just using a 35 amp. It's more than good enough for the plane. Yeah, that's basically the setup. I pushed everything all back in as much as I can. With this plane, I feel that, you know, CG, not to say CG isn't important, but, you know, it's a high wing with big wings as well. It flies well. As you can see in the video, I'll put some links down below to, you know, my flights with this plane. It's very agile, no issues, battery straight right up to the front. The fan works, it cools the O3. I didn't have any issues while in flight. There was one video that the air unit overheated because the fan stopped working. Why it stopped working is because the solder connection wasn't, you know, connected well. So I hope this longish video would help many of you pilots put DJI O3 in your RC planes. I do not have a DJI O4 Pro as yet. I did order, but I do not plan to put the O4 into my RC planes at the moment, as I feel that the only advantage would be low light, and I'm not flying during dusk or even at night. If you are, probably could help. I do appreciate if you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. You could follow my social media as well. I'm Velocista FPV in YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So if you can like my videos, my posts, and comment, I greatly appreciate that as well. So I hope this video helps you pilots put DJI O3 in your RC planes and enjoy flying. Thank you.